sit up straight.
Yeah.
That just...
There might not be 19,000 people. It's just my people that follow me. There's 19,000.
Oh, they're on TikTok.
Did you start it already? Yeah. They're letting everyone know right now.
You can try to fire.
Wait a minute. Hello. All right, let's see. Here we go. This one is about 10 seconds. I got one. I got Jen. What? There's one person. Jen. Oh, there we go. Okay. Hello, hello. We're doing a men's clipper haircut today. So, let me have you actually turn with your feet the opposite way. This is Brian, my brother-in-law.
Which way?
Away from the camera. Wow. Okay. So, now you're not in the light. You gotta stay with the good light. Scoot over this way towards me. There you go. Okay. So we're gonna do a clipper cut. There we go. So we're using a Best Bomb clipper. This is the one they had. And it's a lever clipper, so I'm gonna close it all the way. So it's at a 0, and I'm going to use a number 4 guard. So the guards go by 1/8 of an inch. So 1 would be 1/8 of an inch, 2 would be a quarter, 3 would be 3/8, 4 is a half, 5 is 5/8, 6 is 3/4. You know how it goes. Okay. So I'm starting in the center back, and I'm just going to do straight lines up, and I'm going to scoop out. I'm doing like a handshake grip. I'm going to hold the clipper, my hand up towards the, choke up on the clipper. Usually you can feel like in the back, sometimes it's got ridges where your hand kind of sits nicely. I'm gonna use this handshake grip to kind of go in against the head shape and then scoop out. And that will leave me a weight line that I can blend later. So, turn it around. Just gonna go in and scoop out. And I'm giving pressure, but not a ton of pressure, but just enough pressure that I can get all the hairs and no hair is going to be skipped. I don't want to go too lightly, or that's going to show that I'm not confident, and I'm going to skip some pieces. So going in, and I'm going to leave a weight line, and that's going to help me blend later. So I'm just working really organized, just going up and then doing one section and then half of that section and overlapping it so that no hair is skipped. So again, we're starting in the middle and we're going to work to the outside and taking half of that section so that we make sure that none of that hair is skipped. Okay. Now I'm just going to do kind of a visual check and make sure we're pretty even on both sides. And if it looks like it's fairly even, I'm going to continue down to the ear. So swing your legs over this side. Okay, so now we're going to go right here around the ear. We're not going to take it up too high because we want to keep this length on the top because his hair is very fine. So he needs it to bend, and he needs to have a little bit of length on these sides unless he wants to go really, really short on the sides, which is not what he wants to do. He has to have some length here so that the hair can bend and it can lay down. Otherwise, he's going to be fighting with gel every day, and he doesn't want to do that, I imagine. So we're going to just go around the ears, leaving a weight line about here. Yeah. And when I go around the sides of the ears, I'm going, instead of bringing my clipper flat, I'm bringing it at an angle like this so that I am leaving some weight there. If I go too high, it's going to take it too high, and I'm not going to be able to blend it. I'm not going to be able to keep it just around here. It's going to start going up into that longer hair. I hold his ear down as I go around his ear just to make sure that I don't get them with the sides of the blade. And leaving it just slightly longer than I want it to be at the end. About a half an inch longer, or slightly lower than I want it to be. About a half an inch lower than I want it to end up. Okay, so now swing your legs the other way. So now that side's complete. I'm gonna work behind the ear to front of the ear on the other side, doing the same process. So we're going, holding the ear down, going around the side. You always want to work in the opposite of the way the hair grows to remove weight. If you go with the grain of the hair, you're going to preserve weight. So let's say Brian had like a beard that he wanted to preserve the length. So I would go in the direction of the beard. I would take it upside down so I could preserve that length in the beard. If he wants to take it short, I go against the grain to remove weight. Behind my ear.
Where's the lunch?
Look right there, Hunter. Right in front of you. Right there. Okay. So now I'm going to have him change direction so his knees are facing me. So maybe turn the chair.
Where is it?
Okay. Now I'm just going to look on both sides. I'm looking, just a visual check right here and here, making sure we ended up about the same level. And a lot of times if I was in a salon situation, I would turn the chair so that while I'm working on this side, I could be looking at this side in the mirror. That way I can make sure that I'm at the same height. Okay, so now we're going to work on the top. All right, I'm going to comb and dampen. And we're not going to take off a lot of hair because we want it to bend again, like I said. So we're just going to trim it a little bit. Okay, do you think the cordless clippers are as strong as the corded ones? Probably not. Like my Oster that I have, that I use at work, that's like a heavy duty clipper, and any clippers that are battery powered are just not quite. They don't remove as much bulk and weight. They're more for blending. The ones that are plug-in are more for removing bulk and weight, where those clippers with the leveler and no plug, they're more for fading and blending. Okay, so now we're just going to comb all this down, even though we know he doesn't wear it that way. He combs it over, but we're still just going to comb it down to take off, maybe half an inch. Not a lot. Maybe we're just going to kind of even this out, so it's a little bit more even.
Someone said, do you think the cordless clippers are as strong as the corded ones?
Yeah, I just answered it. Thank you. Did someone else ask? Okay. So I'm just taking that, and I'm just gonna go straight from the center to where like that clipper area is right here. And this is not how he's gonna wear it, so it's not gonna look like that when it's done. Point of view, wear in hairdressing class. Teacher. Yes. Do you have a question? Yes, welcome to Hairdressing Cosmetology 101. Cutting a man's haircut. Okay, so now we're gonna just take it from the center over to this clipper area. We're just evening it out this way. Okay, so I'm gonna have to turn your legs. Actually, just turn this way. So now we've got, well, actually turn all the way to the back this way. So now we've got the front cut. So we have the length there. Yes. Can we go to recess? I'm hungry. Yes, you may go. You're excused. This is you're not paying for this class, so you can leave at any time. All right, so we're looking at the back here. Turn back this way. And what we're looking for is the cowlick area. So he's got two cowlicks in the back. So he's got one right here, and that's where that little swirl is. and then one over here a little bit. Well, maybe not too bad. But everybody's hair is growing in a circle, so you always have one side that tucks in and one side that flips out. So you can tell the direction his hair goes is this way, and so I bet this side curls under and this side flips out because it all goes in a circle. So you have to keep that in mind. So this is going to be, you're going to want to test this hair to make sure you don't cut it too short, and you're going to find a bounce point. So by pulling the hair straight up and then bring it back towards the scalp, you'll see where it bends, and you always want to make sure you cut beyond that bend of the hair, unless you want to do it really, really short and do more of a silhouette look. But he wants to keep it so he doesn't have a palm tree happening here, so we're going to cut beyond that bend, which is about where it is. So I really don't want to take any length here. So I'm not gonna even take anything because it's already at that point where it's just now bending, and I don't want to disrupt it and have it start standing up. But I am going to take this length and bring it to the top of the head and measure. So I'm just going to draw like a little line from that point in the middle of the circle to where I want my top guide to be, which is the flat point of the head where the comb rests on top of the head. And I'm going to connect that, and I just want to cut, well, maybe I'll leave this one a little bit shorter actually. Now that I'm looking at this here, this part's just bending, so I don't want to take too much off. Now that I'm thinking about this, let's see. Kind of gotta let the hair tell you what it wants. So yeah, I don't want to take too much off because it's gonna start standing up. So let's see. We'll just trim it. We'll see if it's even. Let me have you turn your legs this way. Scratch all that stuff I just said. We don't want to take too much off. So we're just gonna take a center part right there and a little bit up here. And we're just gonna look at kind of what the previous person did. This wasn't the one I cut before. So, and we're just gonna even it out. So I can see his bangs are quite a bit shorter than like the middle. So, and that usually happens because if you look at like where the top of the head is, there's a big gap between where the bangs are and where the top of the head is. So you always want to cut the top a little bit shorter than these bangs if you're going back, because if you cut this, you know, to here, then this is going to be really short. Because it's a curved shape, you have to keep the bangs longer for it to be an even line. Making a square shape on a curved head, right? So we're not gonna take it quite as short as these bangs, because I don't want everything that short. We're just gonna trim it a little bit off the top, just so that's even. So that's about a 1/4 of an inch. I'm only taking enough in my hand that I can control, and then put your legs together. Any more questions? Shared. Oh, cool. Okay, so now we're going to just go and take sections, and we're doing sections no wider than the width of a comb because we don't want to have a lot of over direction. We want to make sure that we're pulling straight up from where it grows. So that first section, just a small triangle right at the part there. We're going to take it straight up and just take just a tiny bit off. We're letting this all drop out because that's part of our design line. We don't want to cut into that or leave a hole. So we're going straight up, just dusting those edges. And then we're going to take half of this section and move it out of the way, and then take another section right behind it. And again, no wider than the width of that comb. We're going to bring it straight up 90 degrees and just cut that length. Combing that in half and then bring the next section up. Whoa, right. I'm not going past my second knuckle because I want to have the same amount of tension. Once you get past your second knuckle, it gets a lot looser tension, and you can easily cut your knuckle. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're just working in kind of a pie shape around the head, just making this last haircut a little more even. Okay. That's, and even though he parts his hair on the side, we're still going to cut it down the middle, because that way if he doesn't get his part perfect, it's still going to work. Because otherwise, if you comb everything from this side, you're going to have these long pieces, and then you don't get the part perfect, and there's like these comb over pieces that hang over, and that doesn't look so good. So I'm gonna take some of these comb over pieces down a little bit. Because he doesn't want to have this much hair. Like this is where the side ends, and this is where the comb over is. We don't want to have a ton of hair just hanging over. Unless that's the look you're going for. That's not it. Okay. So working around the head shape. You can now go back to the center part here. So it's cut, and I'm just following, using half of the previous section and just following my wagon wheel shape around the head. And some of these parts are pretty short already. I'm not even gonna cut anything because they're at the point where they're already wanting to stand up even without cutting anything. That I wouldn't take any more because that's not gonna serve me. This haircut. Get it. Hair's too healthy. It dries so quickly. Should we go still? And see, this side is not quite as long, but it was kind of cut to the part before.
What?
Okay. So now we're going to comb it to the way he parts it, which is going this direction. Can you see yourself in the thing? Is that too low?
Can't see.
Or where does it usually part? Like here, maybe?
Kind of.
You kind of just push it all?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's pretty good there.
Is this shorter over here then? Because that's where it like hangs over, and I didn't like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're gonna blend it too. So.
Right.
Yeah, because I can tell like your hair just kind of wants to. And if we are trying to force it to go apart over here, it's not gonna want to do that, and then you're just gonna have a weird piece that hangs down. So just like let it be itself, and we'll just work with what it wants to do. Don't fight it. Just work with it, because that piece just wants to be in like a curl there. So we're not gonna judge him. We're just gonna make this haircut work so that that guy can be that curl, and it will still work with the rest of the do. We might just need to take a little bit more off right there. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and blend, and I'm blending with. I'm just gonna blend with clipper over comb, taking the guard off and blending with a 0, which is the clipper all the way closed. So we got open, which is a half, closed, 0. And I'm gonna blend just with the comb, with the clipper over the comb. Okay. So let me turn down again, back to the camera. Okay. So now, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for 2 short points. You can see, and I don't know how easy it is to see in this camera angle, but you can see that there's like a weight line right here, and I need to get rid of that. So I'm just gonna go in, and I'm gonna kind of put my fingers about halfway on the comb, choke up on my clipper, and I'm just gonna go in. I'm using my pinky for support, just so the comb doesn't wobble. Going in and kind of scooping from the clippered area up, and then moving away from the head, supporting my comb with my hand right here, and just I only move it away until that clipper area disappears, and then I take off whatever's left over in that weight line. So I'm going here, going tight to the head, pulling it out until that clipper area disappears, and then taking that longer hair off. And then I'm just going to be working around the head shape, moving my comb in different directions to make sure that I go against all the grain, or going against the way the hair is growing. And it is still going to look a little bit like a weight line because it's wet, But once it dries, it should blend in so you can't see any weight on there. So I'm just going through and kind of chipping away at it, making sure it looks really good. If you're not sure, just take a little bit, and you can always take a little more. Okay, that's pretty good. So why don't you, let's see, let's turn the chair so you can go the other way. Or if you want to just sit that way, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm gonna, here, scoot the chair up there. Out of the camera view. And maybe we should go behind the, might be better if we're having direct like, sunlight like behind the screen a little bit more. Let's move over. This lighting is hard. Right now, it's not the best. Is that better? Yeah, I think that way you can see it. Sorry. Everybody's gonna throw up. Okay. I don't know. That might be better. Might be worse. Okay. So see this here, it kind of wants to go this way. So we already took some length off of there, so we're just gonna kind of blend all that together. And you can see there's like a weight line, and there's a shadow on it right now. But there's a weight line right here. Alright, so starting where we left off there, right behind the ear, just going in to the clippered area, scooting it out away from that clipper area, and then taking off the longer hairs that are left over. Do you have a specific comb that you use when doing a clipper over comb? Yeah, I would say a comb that's wide. So you don't want to use one of those little tiny like barbering combs. You want to use a comb that has a lot of area space here, because you want that clipper to go over the comb. If it's any smaller than the clipper, you could accidentally take more than you wanted. So something wide and kind of a flat comb. And then with fine hair, it's hard because a lot of times you can see a line, especially with children's hair when they're blonde. So you gotta, be very careful that you don't take too much off, or that, you might even want to go in with the thinning shears and just kind of blend that cut area into the clippered area. You don't want to, go at it with the thinning shears, just to blend the line out a little bit. If you can't do it with the clipper.
You want more?
Okay, so now that looks like it's pretty good there. Let me see.
Yeah, I'll leave them right here, okay?
Alright, so now I'm going to have to switch the other way, turn his legs around to this side over here, all the way over. Ooh, black hearts, that's neat. Thanks. I don't know what that means. Is that a good thing? I meant like, it's like a hairdresser loving the hairdresser black, right? I'm going to take it as that. Death sign. Alright, so now we're just going to go and take the line out right here. Same thing, going towards the clippered area, pulling out till that clippered area disappears into the comb, and then just taking off those long hairs. And I'm not really going straight up and down. I am coming out at an angle slightly, because I don't want to go too far into the hair here, because if I go into this hair, then it won't have a bend anymore and it'll start sticking straight out. So I want to make sure that I preserve this weight right through here, because that's a crucial area in this haircut, because if I take it any shorter than right here, it's going to go straight out, because the hair needs to bend in order to lay. So So once you go through that area, you're done. So it's over. You might as well go really short because that's what you're gonna have to do anyway. Or you're gonna plaster this guy full of gel, send him on his way without checking in the mirror, and then just start being really nice. Ah, I'm blinded by the sun in my clipper. I'm just looking for a little bit of shadow area that's a little bit darker than the rest. And I know, like if I take any more right here, that's gonna start to flip. But right now, it's like a perfect length that it just like goes right into place right there. So I see there's a couple little longer hairs here. I'm gonna just nip those little edges off. And that looks really nice. Yeah. Good. I don't know if you can see. It's hard to see because of the light. But take my word for it. It looks okay. Okay. So now I blended it. Now I need to just go around the neckline. Do you have a, you don't have a, you know what? I'm gonna just kind of fade it and then we won't have to do too much neckline and we'll just kind of clean up around the ears. So since this clippered area was a number 4, I'm just gonna go down with like a number 3 to 2, just right here by the neck, and then we're just gonna fade that out into nothing. We don't have to worry about putting like a harsh line in there. But if I did want a harsh line, I'd go in on my, with my clipper this way and kind of stamp that in first, and then go up and shave underneath that hair. But we're gonna blend it out. You want to blend it out? Okay. Cool. So. Since it was a 4 that I'm using, I'm gonna go put a 3 guard on my trimmer. Just gonna, how I do this is I just put the teeth into the guard underneath there and then just snap it on like that. These are pretty new. You can tell mine snap on a lot easier. Okay, so then turn all the way with your legs this way. So now we're just gonna go in and, you know, we're probably just gonna go up to about here with the 3, and that's not even gonna, I'm gonna start scooping out there, so it's actually only gonna look about here, and then the 2, and that should be low enough that it still looks like he has hair here, but it will be, most of this cowlicks and stuff will be blended out. So, putting it on, let's see, we're gonna go again from the middle, up and just scooping it out right by, and the thing is you gotta either, everybody has like this kind of divot in their head. Some people are more pronounced than others. You gotta keep that fade like under that divot or above that divot, or else it's gonna look like a hard line because of the shadow. So I'm just kind of going around and going a little bit, like it's almost like a smile. I just kind of follow this. You don't want to just drop it off right here. It won't look natural. You want to kind of follow it up that ear shape a little bit so it looks blended. And I'm starting in the middle again.
Oh yeah.
Just going out to that other side. And this hair kind of grows in this upwards direction, so I'm going to kind of go against the grain right there, working almost down. That's its growth patterns there. And then I'm going to go continue up this side. And that just kind of takes it, blend it out just a little bit. It's always hard to photograph a fade just because lighting doesn't always do it justice. Okay, so that was a number 3. Now I'm going to just go around the 2 and just clean up that very edge. And so again, putting the teeth in to the top of that clipper guard and then pressing down, and then making sure that it's on secure. And now I'm going to go with the 2, and I'm just going to follow that same line, but I'm just going to take it like here. So we're just taking off, all we're doing is just removing a little bit of this extra hair around the edge. It's really not even going to show that much. So going from the center and working out to each side, scooping up, kind of following that pattern of the hair, the way the hair grows, so that we're always working against the grain, so we want to remove weight. And then this side too. Alright, and that really didn't change a lot, but it just kind of gave it a nice soft finish. We're going to also go in and take off the hair of the neck. So I'm gonna, at this point, I always want to check my clipper before I start putting my metal on anyone's skin. I always want to put it on the back of my wrist just to make sure it's not too hot, because if it gets super hot, that means it needs to be oiled. So I want to make sure that my clipper is always oiled before starting any haircut. And if the handle gets hot, it needs to be oiled on the inside. So usually there's like a little ball bearing somewhere. Maybe this brand is not having that. There's usually a little ball bearing you can push down and oil inside the clipper. So now I'm just going to go in and just take this line and just kind of blend it out and do the neck at the same time. I might even scissor or comb, just like if I skip any little, might feel 1 or 2 hairs that are a little longer right there. I'm going to take those off. Or I may not have caught or whatever. Okay. And now I usually at this point kind of wipe off my customer so that they don't get hair all over them. And then I'm going to undo the cape and I'm going to pull their shirt down a little bit just so that I don't want to stop right here and then if he has hair on his back it's like a perfect line. Like I want to pull it down so that we get like the neck and the shoulders. So again, I'm testing to make sure it's not too hot. Turning it on, and then we're going to start up here. I'm not pulling his shirt off, but I'm just, bringing it down a little bit further than probably a collar would show. Yeah, and him tilting his head forward is good there because it's a nice flat surface. Some people have like these weird necks. I mean, all more power to them, but the sun, man, get you. I'm just working my way up, same thing, kind of doing one stroke and then half of that stroke and doing another stroke overlapping each section. Being careful around the neck here and here just because sometimes people have those like tendons and you don't want to nick them. If for some reason, like every man forgets to shave right here, has anybody else noticed that every time you do a guy's haircut, there's almost always a patch of hair right here behind that ear that's still on the neck? 9 out of 10. Brian is more careful than most, I think, in the shaving, so he doesn't have that. Okay. So now I'm just going to continue on this side. And starting. I want to make sure I get all of this. I don't even know if this is attached, but we'll just go over it again.
Let me go if you want any more packets. You want any more after this?
All right. Okay. And now I'm just going to stand behind and check for balance, making sure I look like nice and even, and I think that looks nice. So then I'm going to put the cape back on here and have him turn his legs so they're facing this way. And now I'm just going to go around the ear. I'm going to hold his ear forward. I'm always going to like comb this hair forward and hold it with my comb there. And that way, I don't know if you can see this. Let's see. when I hold his ear down and I comb this forward, that way it kind of pushes that hair forward and you can see it and you can get those long hairs that sometimes get trapped behind the ear. So pushing that forward. This one's a little bit bigger than the trimmer I have at home, so it's a little bit harder to manage. Just one-handed like this, but. And then the same thing, I'm pushing this hair tends to kind of grow towards the away from the ear, so I'm going to comb it and then kind of hold it towards the ear and just take it off like this. Holding the ear down, getting right around that ear here. Need like a little peanut. Oh, you had one. Oh. Okay. And now I'm gonna comb this part forward because it's not good to leave like a bunch of hair here so that it looks like a big puffy ball. You know, we want to comb that forward, get those long hairs, just take those right off. And then that gives it like a nicer edge. And then again, I see a long hair over here, then just take that off. So this gives me a nice edge. And his sideburns, I'm going to ask him if he wants me to take his sideburns up. I think they're at a good length. But I do notice that there's like longer hairs over here. But a lot of times sideburns, they have like a weaker spot in here. So you got to be careful not to take too much length off of there. Also, they just look like bald spots, and that's not what he wants, I don't think. So going to preserve a little bit more length than I need, just so we don't take it too short there. But up here, where it's a tiny bit thicker in this area, we're going to take maybe a touch more. And then, so I'm just going to take here. Usually with a trimmer I go in and kind of stamp it out, but I don't want to stamp out this big old thing. I'll maybe use the trimmer again later just to go over as I can here. But, and then, with the trimmer, you want to go and do the ears, he doesn't really have any hair on his ears, but if he did, I'd make sure I get that and the little ones on the inside, and just so he's all cleaned up. He might be one of these guys that hasn't seen his ear in a couple of years, and we want to make sure that there's nothing, offensive coming out. So, but Brian's ears are very clean, so we don't even have to worry about that. Good job, Brian. Way to manscape. Okay. Same thing with this other side. I'm going to kind of comb the hair towards the ear and just get that right off the edge of this. And again, I would use like a peanut or small trimmer if I was in the salon. How many hair it just take me? I'm going to take. And then again, the same thing with this little area right here. We don't want to leave like a lot of like weight right there in that right here. So we want to just kind of comb that all forward and then just take off that weight. We're going to even pull it up and just pull that out. So that looks a lot more nice and blended. I'm just going to even take a little bit more. One here. Nice. Okay. And then again, we're gonna thin out those. Take a little bit of this long hairs off, and thin out these sideburns. Just focusing on the long ones. I don't want to take a lot of hair off the sideburn because we want it to stay thick. A lot of times you take it too short, it looks very sparse. So you want to leave enough length there at those sideburns that they're going to cover. Okay, I'll do this here a little bit. All right, looking good. Let's see one more here and here. Okay, so that's looking pretty good there. Now we're gonna probably ask if you wanted me to do his eyebrows. His eyebrows look pretty good though, so I don't think we're gonna do those. I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss any hair on his neck. Checking to see if it's hot again. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna, I'd probably put product in at this point or something to style it if you needed to, if you wanted styling. I'll have you turn towards the camera and I'll show them the looks exactly the same. So nice. There we go. I'm gonna do it like a slow walk and turn. No. So there's our finished product. If you like what you see, watch again. All right. Anybody else want to? Okay.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, that was just like a real quick little haircut. So I'm gonna go spend time with my family again. You know, time is something you can never get back, and I appreciate you all spending it with me today. And happy hairstyling.
Very good.
Whew.